Start we must at some point in time. Courage to restructure.
Hasn't President Jonathan started as much as he can do? Bringing down recurrent expenditure, a bit, however you say it. This is the first time it's happening. In my lifetime, I don't know if it has happened somewhere else. No, it's the truth. Yeah. That he says there is a gradual procedure, guys.
Yeah.
He's saying that last year it was 71%. This year dropped to 68%. Capital up to 1.5 trillion, about 31% of the total aggregate expenditure. But we're saying we should just go beyond the numbers and look deeply. You've enumerated some areas we need to look at critically. Do you have any contrasting or divergent view from what Mr. Fasua has said in terms of how we need to fix the structural defects? That is one. And probably we should take a look at the benchmarks set already, because however you look at it, those benchmarks or the analysis critical.
We need to look at that.
Okay, so just go ahead.
In all fairness, I think the president has taken steps in the fiscal strategy paper that suggests that there is an intent to do that. One, there is an express intention to implement the Aronsanya report, but we are waiting too long on that. So the call is...
The intent is there, but there is no action.
So we want the courage, we want action for the implementation of that report. That's one. Secondly, there is also this putting together a single financial management infrastructure that will manage the central account of the government, which they have now started with this single account issue. It's part of the budget. It's part of the steps taken to reduce the cost and wastages when it comes to managing these accounts that are scattered all over. That is also on point. The conscious reduction of capital an increase in recurrent a bit is also a conscious step taken. But what we are saying is that these things, the problem we have at hand, is beyond all these minor, small, playing the ostrich on the real issue. The real issue is that between now, and I repeat, I said this on Monday, between now and 2013 and 2015, in the next 3 years, when you average it, you will have an average of about 68% still going into the recurrent. Now, if you are left with 32 will not be able to build new bridges. 32 will not be able to build new airports. 32 will do next to nothing. And then we are talking about 2015, the MDGs is around the corner.
Yes.
The UN Secretary General has inaugurated a committee, which Amina is part of, the former MDG lady. She's part of that committee, of looking post-2015 already. So the UN is already planning the post-2015 agenda. And then we are struggling, we are nowhere.
To meet with the 2015 needs.
They are looking at post-2015, the MDG goals. Now we are struggling to meet that. The developmental goals of the 2020, we are just not close to it. If you look at the economic structures of those countries that are in the first 20 countries, you discover that we are nowhere close. And remember, they are not sitting down. That is why I laugh at this assumption, Tope. When people feel that who are we going to displace in the 20?
People like Brazil.
We will displace them.
Now I'm just wondering, because they also the people like Brazil, people like India.
We are not prepared to get there.
Not to talk of like China. Okay, let's come down to highlights of Mr. President's budget. Yes. Let's take a look at the benchmarks.
Yeah.
You actually said something about that before, so let me go into that now. If we take a look at the benchmark oil price set at about $75, but we're seeing the National Assembly mirrored in this, we need to up it to whatever value it is away from the $75 dollars. Would you say that the government has used a conservative benchmark so far, vis-a-vis that the estimated global price for 2013 is at $100 as estimated, I think, by IMF in the latest October World Economic Outlook? Tope, is that conservative enough? Why are you smiling?
Before I go into that,
we shouldn't just go into all that.
We'll talk about that. Before I go into that, let me just pick up from where my colleague has just, mentioned. In terms of the kind of restructuring we want or we need as a people. They say that, according to, they say that any entity, person, okay, or even a country whose rate of learning is less than or equal to the rate of change in its environment is going to become a dinosaur. So we're talking about not only our physical environment. Of course, you can see the flood that's going on in in many parts of Nigeria today, and so many people displaced. Change in environment. Did we learn about those floods when we should? They said whether the rate of learning is equal to or less than, then you're in trouble, even if it's equal to. If you are learning that the flood is coming at the time that the flood has come, then you're in trouble. You have to learn ahead of time. So in the same vein, whether your economic or political environment, you have to learn ahead of time before the situation changes. What are the changes that we need in Nigeria? The changes we need in order not to become extinct, not to become dinosaurs as a country, in order not to face extinction totally. It's not only from the governmental level. Unfortunately for us, we're talking about the constitutional review now, and the Senate and co, they're talking about more states. More states. About 57 new states have been proposed, even more than that, but 57 are being considered. Now, I don't know, maybe they're going to approve them all, but do we need more states? More states mean more commissioners, more state houses of state-of-the-art. We are not short of state-of-the-art buildings in Nigeria. What we're short of are those poor policies that will take care of those people who are being ravaged by flood now. It needs to be said, and clearly so. But however, what we need, the kind of change we need only is not in terms of restructuring our government. So we want full federalism. Of course, for example, the South, we say we want total federalism, we want to control all our resources. But they've been getting quite a number of amounts in the last number of years, almost a decade or more. But look at what's on ground. People are still scooping fuel. People are still burning human beings. So, but however, I must tell you that the change we require is also from me and you. It has come to the point where in order to salvage ourselves and salvage our generation to come, we must invest in ourselves and in our country. Everybody must go back to their secondary school. The other day, I was passing through King's College in Lagos. Inside of the high profile of the university of the school, and the number of alumni, it's looking like another public school derelict. And I made up my mind, I have to go back to my own secondary school too. Whatever you have, give them, pay your tithes there if necessary. You know what I mean? Do what you have to do. We now need to move. So the change we require is from me, from you, okay? We need to change our thinking. We need to challenge our culture, the culture that puts us under a lot of pressure. The focus on ego and all those kind of things is part of what has put us where we are. So values must change. And we must also, like I said before, we must take a long-term view. Therefore, we must inculcate in those children that are growing that, look, forget it, you really don't need a private jet. You need a private jet as much as you need to own a train. You understand? Yeah. If you won't buy a train and start driving it around yourself, you don't even need a private jet. Yes. So you see, but look at the guys that are in charge, leadership in several states are even buying private jets as we speak. And of course, you know that the debt profile is rising. States are borrowing. But where is the impact? Must we borrow? I mentioned before the issue of, there's always this idea. The first thing I'll challenge about our budget is this. Must we run budget deficits? Is there going to come a day that we're going to say, look, let us spend what we can earn, or let us even save some more? And I put it to you today, Nancy, that what we actually need now, given the fact that there's so much inefficiency built into our budget, and that has been acknowledged even at the topmost level, even from the president to the minister, the coordinating minister and so on, that look, there's so much inefficiency. That is why they're struggling to pull back. They say, no, let's not spend all this money, which takes me to the issue of benchmark. They're saying, let's not spend all this money, let's keep back. Now, the truth is this, that between me and you, now is the time to save. If you're going to spend ₦1 million, and you know that this 1 million naira, okay, for example, okay, you want to send money to the village for a project. You say, well, let me send +1 million naira to the village. But you know that when the money goes to the village, you are not quite sure of maybe some of your cousins or your uncle. Maybe there's a lot of problems on ground. So say, okay, let me save 500 now. Let me save 500. That's the way it works. So it is now the time to save up on the time that we're able to build our people to run good budgets and run good economies. We don't have what is called value for money. That value for money problem is very, 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 they set up the due process office. No, they tried. Maybe they still do, but we need to continue to emphasize this, which takes me to the issue of benchmark, okay? see, in setting the benchmark, you're looking into the future. In the next 1 year, what's going to happen? One of the best things they do is what they call a Monte Carlo simulation. And a Monte Carlo simulation is basically something on your Excel, and you say, look, okay, let's put in these parameters. What is likely going to happen? What volatility are we looking at? In the next 1 year, what will affect this whatever? And then you project. And your Monte Carlo may tell you that, okay, 75 is okay. 75 is okay because, you know, we are still running a budget where we need to spend, and we seem to be under the belief that the more we spend, the more development comes. No. What we have seen is that the more we spend, the more wastages occur. What we have seen is that the more we spend, the less value for money we get. Therefore, it may be a right time to save. Therefore, in terms of the benchmark, I would sway on the side of the president and the minister for now, you know. But even I'm telling you that 75 is too high, go to Norway. They sterilize everything they get from crude oil. This is a finite resource. It may dry up someday. Why would we spend everything we have? Given also the fact that we have been spending it like that for God knows when, and we have not got any results from it. And people are still poor. Look at those places where they are ravaged by flood. See the kind of people that are coming, the kind of houses they live. Therefore, it may be a good time for us to save. Therefore, even if they had said, look, we want to spend at 50 and let anything that comes on top go into the excess crude account, this is the time to save. I'll be in support of that. Given that most of the money anyway, like I said before, goes into vanity projects and what have you, first-class travels and what have you. Mr.
Gashimbaki, you want to continue from where?
I think I concur.
The benchmark, not just all price. Yeah. You can go into other benchmark sets.
The benchmark basically I think is conservative and is okay, because basically how do they even arrive at the benchmark is an average of 10 years moving average that you do to arrive at whatever benchmark they use for the preparation of the MTEF and for the annual budget. Now, in the sense that for the past 3 years, if you add the successive averages that have been used in 2010, 2011, and now 2012, is still hovering around 90 to 100, it is appropriate that 75 is used. What the National Assembly should be concerned about will not be, I don't think is, the worry should not be how conservative is the benchmark, but the worry should be how to make the structural adjustments align. For example, like I've told you, the MTF have not been passed. They should pass it. Secondly, they should look at the fiscal responsibility law, prescribe certain things that has to be there, and they are not there. For example, the MTF was very silent about growth projections, silent about interest rate projection for the next 3 years, silent about inflation rate projection for the next 3 years. So the document itself is defective. They should look at all those things and also exercise their powers under Section 40D of the Fiscal Responsibility Act that gives them power to even hold public hearing on the MTEF. That way, they will get infusion of opinion from the private sector, from all sectors, because the budget belongs to all. And not until we begin to do things that way, there is no way they will be able to fix this problem, because this problem is bigger than what one person will be able to address. But we need to just have the courage to say, this is the problem, let's fix it. And like I said on Monday, the National Assembly should take the lead. I do believe in the 2013 budget, they can make do with 50% of what they have been appropriated. And I do believe the presidency will be able to do the same. Okay. Now, I am canvassing that the judiciary should follow suit. But let us be very aware that it is not the step that the president will be able to take alone. That is why I'm canvassing that the National Assembly should take the lead to address that process.
Now, in closing, talk about what do you have in closing? Because there seems to be, as we just go ahead, as we continue to dissect this budget, my eyes are also opening to other things. Talk about is coming from the social angle part of it, which I think is very critical, that as Nigerians we should invest not just in infrastructure, but as in a people, so to speak, in its people. Nigeria should invest in Nigerians. Who is Nancy? What is she made of? What are the characteristics? What characteristics does she possess? Those are the things that will move that. And if you give me 1 million naira, I'll be able to take care of the 1 million or not.
That's it. Value for money. In closing, very quickly, I say, look, I keep on emphasizing this because you know what they say. My people say that when they call you foreman, they're just trying to make your head swell. You can't do the work of 4 people. Yeah. You understand? So, but the bottom line is this. You see, no president can solve all the problems of Nigeria. Nigerians will have to solve their own problem. The more of that power you give back to the people, to let them know that they are responsible for their own destiny and that they can make the change and they should stand in the gap and be courageous enough to make the change. I would say that the type of economy we run now is very, very bad. Everybody maxes out. For example, try and rent a 2-bedroom flat in Abuja here, you'll be earning 2 million per year. You expect criminals to, so yes, you expect them to steal, to come out. And we have seen the folly of all this primitive acquisition. We are in the throes of primitive, I don't even call it corruption, I call it a mental problem. You don't need as much as all these things that people take. Our hotels are too expensive globally, why would the tourists come to our country? Transportation is very expensive. Go to Lagos from one point to the other, 6,000, 5,000. Okay, in fact, the other day I was hearing the DG of NTDC on Mr. Benga's show, and he was talking about their efforts. But do you know that in Abuja Airport, when you're coming in from international, one of the first announcements you hear is that beware of touts. Coming up, he said every airport user is told to be aware of touts. Don't deal with touts. If you do so, you're at your own risk. And I wrote to the Minister of Aviation. I wrote to the Minister of Trade. As we speak, they're still repeating it. So you have written your own testimonial. And we have shown the kind of people we are. So the problem we have is not only with leadership, not only with government, with me and you. And we must be brave enough to stand in the gap and do the right thing. Okay. And that dovetails into the issue of budgeting. If we're able to do that, the budget will be easy peasy. And in fact, we'll spend half of the projected money and achieve even more. That's the way.
Quickly,
I think.
Mr. Bashimbaki.
I concur. I think the National Assembly should take the lead, do the right thing, follow the fiscal responsibility law to the latter, and then we will probably see results. Sure, we will. This country will change significantly. There is no way we will be running a budget like this and think we will be able to deliver development. With 32 trillion deficit in infrastructure, that is not attainable. With over 20,000 abandoned projects scattered at the federal and then the national level, it is next to impossible to imagine that this small amount we are allocating for capital will address our infrastructure deficit. And if we don't have the needed infrastructure, there is also no way at all, no way that Nigeria will develop.
What more can I say? I don't want to end on a depressing note, but it's actually so depressing, But anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show today. Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, it's a series, so we'll continue to look at it because there are various angles I want us to highlight as this budget is concerned. Mr. Fasua, thank you. I don't think we should lose hope. So
yeah, but we're thinking to get more energy and courage to move ahead.
All right, thank you guys. Thanks. All right, that's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Please join us again tomorrow for another edition. I will be here, God willing, to steer the wheel. I am Nancy Hussein. Be the best you can be. Bye now.